Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as well as the vast majority of crypto and finance. And with that being said, let's just dive in and let's start off with this tweet here. So I quoted Johnny Deaton because he is talking about CPI data. Specifically, he is quoting Paul Krugman. And this is an individual, by the way, that actually has a very large following over on Twitter, 4.5 million followers. And it's clear that this is an individual that does not understand CPI data at all. He is quoting a CPI chart that is excluding food, energy, shelter, and used cars. That's right. We do see an inflation update. In the past, I've focused on a measure that excludes legging, shelter, and used cars, as well as food and energy. Just to note that it adds to the evidence that inflation has been largely defeated. How comical is this statement? We do see from Johnny Dean, WTF, excluding food, energy, shelter, and used cars from the equation? Dude, that is the equation. It's honestly comical. I mean, this is from an individual that has 4.5 million followers. Like, this tweet got 3.8 million views. I don't know if this is an individual that is engagement farming or what. I don't think he really needs the money. But I think that it's comical that we see people thinking that this is how we should measure CPI. Like, this is everything that is 100% a necessity in life. And I even said, this is pure manipulation. Remember when Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen, which by the way, Janet Yellen, like, I don't even understand how she got into the position that she's in. Like, I don't understand how this individual can even talk about economics or finance at all. Like, she's oblivious to the problems at hand. Or maybe, she understands that she has a job to do and it's all by plan and all by design. But nonetheless, we do see they were saying that capital and liquidity positions of the US banking system were strong. That was right before multiple banks collapsed. They just keep lying to us and manipulating us. Most people fall for it too. And I just had a conversation with a good friend of mine, actually. And it was right after I met with another individual that I had the same conversation with. Now, these are two individuals that come from trade jobs, right? And they're actually having a hard time right now because, first off, a lot of people don't have a ton of disposable income right now. On top of that, materials for trade jobs, we're talking construction, it could be plumbing, electrical, you name it. The equipment to do these jobs has become extremely expensive. Like, go look at building materials right now. It's insane. It's wild. Now go into a grocery store. Try to feed a family of 4, for an example. Look at rent. Look at utilities. Like, what is going on here? Why is nobody questioning this? We have individuals now saying that it's now defeated. Inflation's now defeated. Yeah, I don't think so. And you know what's funny about this? Going all the way back to 2014. That's how far back we're going, 9 years ago. This was written by Perianne Boring, which, by the way, you probably know this individual. If you don't, you should definitely know who she is. But we do see, if you want to know the real rate of inflation, don't bother with the CPI. And this is from 2014. This is very, very interesting. And you know what? The CPI data, it's all manipulated. Anything that the government is putting out, take it with a grain of salt, because it really is most likely going to be fake, manipulated. It's just like the stock market. We already know that it's manipulated. We have congressional members earning 3,000% on their salary per year off of stock trading. So let's be real here. We know the game at hand. And you know what's funny about this? We recently just seen in one single month almost $300 billion added to the US debt. In 1 month, as JP Morgan Chase issues economic alert. How comical is this? And now we are almost at $33 trillion. Gotta love it, right? You know what's really concerning about this is that now a lot of people think that one, we're about to have a government shutdown, which I would argue that we probably don't. But Congress is facing pressure to pass a new budget before funding for the US government runs out on September 30th, right? So, as we really kind of look at this, first and foremost, let's go and look at what Janet Yellen has planned for us, right? You guys probably remember this video. I included it on multiple videos on this channel where I was talking about the bank collapses back in April, because this got posted back in April, right around like the end of March. And when you see Janet Yellen, US national debt target $50 trillion within the next 7 years. Listen closely to this.
You're going to drive the debt from somewhere around $32 trillion up to about $50 trillion, correct?
Yes, but what I believe is the single most important metric for judging the fiscal stance of the country is real net interest as a share of GDP.
Okay.
We have
so are you concerned when
GDP.
you're taking the debt from $32 to $50 trillion? Are you concerned who's going to buy that debt, and also at what rate they'll expect to be compensated for buying riskier and riskier debt? Are you concerned about that?
Well, if the real net interest cost of the debt remains low relative to GDP, and we're on a sustainable fiscal.
Well, we're not on a sustainable path.
And this is exactly what I mean, right? Like, we're talking about sustainability here. How is it sustainable to print, this much money, $18 trillion within the next 7 years? Ridiculous, right? But this is the thing, right? I don't believe that we are going to see this much printing. And I also think that this is not going to happen. And the reason why I say that is because I think a lot of people are really kind of looking at a possible reset. See, as we really kind of look at the debt clock right now, which a lot of people think that this is actually manipulated. They don't think that this is real. I'm not really concerned too much about the U.S. national debt. I'm not really looking at that statistic, even though we are nearing $33 trillion, like I said. The big thing that I'm really kind of looking at here is credit card debt and debt for individuals, right? First off, how sad is the savings per family at $14,000? How insane is that? And when we look at credit card debt right now, it is nearing $1.3 trillion. It is sitting at $1.26 trillion right now. Combine this with student loan debt, $1.8 trillion. I mean, it's insane. When you look at the debt around individuals right now, specifically individuals right now in the US, combined with, of course, inflation, the cost of food, the cost of energy, the cost of used cars, things like that. Oh, and don't forget, if the car breaks down and you have to take it to the garage, now the garage, guess what? Their prices went up because, again, it's so hard for people to keep up with their bills, keep up with the cost of living. This is why I say, like, it is truly getting hard out there for the typical individuals. And like, the question is, what happens next? And is this all coordinated? Because we've had the discussion on how they really kind of want to wipe out the retail sector. The best way to wipe out the retail sector is to usher in massive hyperinflation on top of major debt. And, again, the interest just keeps going up. Keep boosting those interest rates. When we look at all of that, debt is swallowing up retail right now. And that's what they want. Because at the end of the day, well, a lot of people think that we are going to see a reset. This is back in January, by the way. The world has a major debt problem. Is a reset coming? A lot of people around the XRP community, for an example, have really kind of discussed this idea of a reset. But one thing that I want you guys to understand is, like, I'm not even in a rush to sell my crypto into the US dollar right now. I mean, why would I? Could they print more XRP? No. Could they print more HBAR or XLM or XDC? Like, some of these assets, you're not going to see any more of them in terms of supply. But the US dollar, they want to print another $18 trillion within the next 7 years. I mean, what do you really think that that's going to do? This is why a lot of people think that a reset is going to happen. And also, a lot of people actually think that we're already in a global economy reset. It's a slow motion reset, if you will. This got written back in April, and it really kind of talked a little bit about this, especially, highlighting some of the failures of the big banks back in March, and also the debt and currency market freak out over the British fiscal plan last fall, things like that. Like, everything that we have seen is really kind of leading up to some big boom event. And again, a lot of people think that it's the idea of incorporating CBDCs, and it's this, it's that. Like, we don't know, right? But one thing that we know is that CBDCs are becoming a highlighted thing. They are becoming the spotlight, if you will. But one thing that I've been really kind of looking at is debt to GDP ratio globally. Back in February of this year, Clive Thompson, which is a retired managing director of wealth management, formerly working in Swiss private banking, talked a little bit about what is a currency reset. And again, a lot of these articles and a lot of these discussions came out directly at the same exact time. So first and foremost, we do see a currency reset is a process where a new currency is introduced to replace the existing one, usually during times of financial crisis. It typically happens when the public has lost confidence in the currency, leading to a falling exchange rate, or when a country is experiencing hyperinflation. That's the key there. The cause of a failing currency is often linked to the over-indebtedness of the government and the perception that it has lost the ability to repay what it owes. Interesting. Because now we are seeing nearly $300 billion added to the US debt in just 1 month, at the same time that we know that they have plans for the $50 trillion worth of debt, which who's going to buy this? Because Japan started to slow down. And in fact, Japan has been looking into possibly selling. Question is who's going to buy, right? And on top of this, we know that the retail sector is getting swallowed up already by inflation, which they are manipulating and telling us that inflation's basically dead. Don't worry, look at the CPI data. So as we look at this, are we already nearing the reset point? Are we already there? We look here, right? Like, any debt to GDP ratio above 60% is too high. Now, what's funny about this? Go back to this article from September of 2023. This is just 3 days ago, or actually 4 days ago, actually. When you see the IMF says global debt fell a share of GDP in 2022, may resume rising trend. The question is that what's this ratio today? Because this is going off of 2022. When we look at this, the IMF said in an update to its global debt database that the world's total debt to GDP ratio fell last year to only 238% from 248% in 2021 and 258% in 2020. The question is, we're not even under 200%. Remember, this is debt to GDP. Mind you, any debt to GDP ratio above 60% is too high. The global system has failed. We need a global reset. This is where we start to really kind of question what the price of XRP is going to be in the future as well, by the way. And it's just not XRP. It's all the utility assets that are really kind of tied to this new financial system, which we've kind of talked a little bit about and discussed in the past. But this takes time. We do see the process of currency reset varies each time, but it typically involves changing the old currency for a new one. Individuals may be allowed to change some of their old banknotes into new ones up to a certain limit, and bank balances up to a certain limit may also be changed into the new currency. However, the exchange rate between old and new currency is rarely 1-to-1. Small balances up to a certain limit might be exchanged to a rate of 1-to-1, while larger balances receive a far worse exchange rate of, say, 1-for-20 or 1-for-100. Insane. This is exactly why I say, like, the banking sector is not safe, especially at this current moment in time. It's important to note that not all balances are treated equally during a currency reset. Larger balances often receive less favorable treatment than small balances. Holders of larger bank deposits or cash may only receive a fraction of their balance. And then, of course, they do talk a little bit about foreign currency holders as well. They often receive less favorable treatment than domestic holders of the currency. And then we do see bonds, mortgages, loans, and private debts can and often do remain in the old currency, but the rules might change this. Usually, government debt is not converted, or at best, only partially converted to the new currency. And I've kind of talked a little bit about this because, you know, we're seeing the discussion around this new currency often comes with the promise that it is pegged to something valuable, and there are promised safeguards to ensure that the loss of value seen in the old currency will never happen again. AKA, that's where we talk a little bit about the gold-backed currency standard, if you will. We don't know if that's going to be the case. A lot of people think that CBDCs are going to be this new currency that is going to be backed by gold, or backed by some sort of tangible thing of value. Outside of that, though, debt, right? I've actually said that they're going to utilize debt as an incentive. They're going to say, hey, we could wipe your debt if you just choose to use the CBDC. Give up, you know, your old deposits, whatever, and in exchange for this CBDC. This could be the reset that, you know, we're really kind of looking at here. And remember, right, like they're not going to, like if it's going to be a CBDC, it needs to be backed by something. It can't be backed by fiat currency because fiat currency is not backed by anything. We need something tangible here, right? And we're even seeing that here. Like, however, if the new currency is backed by something tangible such as gold, then that new promise is only valuable while it lasts. And again, like we need to prepare, right? We even see like it is crucial to prepare early for a currency reset. Nobody will ring a bell before the next crisis. When things start to unwind, everyone will have the same idea as you. If you wait until the last minute, you will find empty shelves and closed doors. It is important to prepare early by diversifying your assets and having a plan in place for when a currency reset occurs. Don't be like Cinderella, leaving it till last minute. And I completely agree here. Like I have been stockpiling, food, water, necessities. And it's not doomsday or preparingness or anything like that. No, it's actually preparing for things that could happen because, you know, at this current moment in time, let's be real. You know, things are not going down in price around us. In fact, you know, what we are really seeing is the value of the dollar dropping and everything around us continuing to go up in price. So not only are we getting hit with the increased prices, we're also getting hit with the decreased value. And for those that are holding a large amount of money in the bank, well, guess what? You get hurt even more off of the inflation aspect. And this is where we really kind of look at the idea of like, where are we headed? And honestly, I think that this is a great outlook here. I think that we are headed towards a global currency reset. And I think that central bank digital currencies, like they're not planning central bank digital currencies. Like we're not seeing 93% of central banks exploring CBDCs for fun. They're not, right? And remember, like outside of what the US is doing, a lot of central banks are stockpiling and hoarding massive amounts of gold. So they have plans here. And I've talked about it, right? Like we could potentially have a new SDR where it's CBDCs and it's all underpinned by gold, right? So they're all backed by certain amounts of gold, and we kind of tokenize and fractionalize gold. That way we don't run into the same problems that we've seen during the gold standard, which was we didn't really have enough gold to accommodate for the global system. But now with tokenization and fractionalization, we can technically do it, right? Like it's possible now. So I do question where we are headed, but I think that the conclusion here is that yes, we are headed towards a global economic reset. And I think that this is also where DLT and blockchain and specific digital assets come into place as well. And that's where we also really kind of talk about some higher valuations for a lot of these assets. Now, of course, is that speculation? Technically, yes. But going off of all the documents that we have read, it's really my best conclusion, honestly. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Peace out.